As we wrap up your Colorado Avalanche post-game show, the Avs lose in Chicago tonight. The Blackhawks get them 3-2 is your final, as kind of a wild third period. The only goal scored in that one was Tyler Johnson on the power play to notch the game winner. Val Nichushkin scored twice, his 14th and 15th goals in the season. Both of those came on the power play. And Nathan MacKinnon got his 34th assist of the season, which extends his point streak to 16 games. That is a new career high. It's the second longest streak in the NHL this season. William Nylander at a 17er. It's tied for the fifth longest point streak in franchise history and the second longest point streak since the Avalanche moved to Denver, only behind Paul Stastny's 20-game point streak in 2006-2007 as Nathan MacKinnon continues to pour in points for the Burgundy and Blue. And that is it. That's the whole enchilada. That is our broadcast. We want to thank everyone who made it possible. Some of the folks here at the station with me. He's the multiple award-winning producer, Steve Nelson, holding it down. Our next broadcast comes at you on Thursday. The Avalanche will come home and host the Ottawa Senators. Broadcast time is 6:30. Once again, the final, Chicago 3, Colorado 2. For Connor McGahey, I'm Mark Brittinelli saying thanks a lot for listening. Have a good night, everybody. For those listening locally to our flagship station, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5, stay tuned for Between the Pipes with Alex Ryan-Amy and Mark Springer. For the rest of you, we'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Altitude Radio Network.
This has been the Avalanche Aftermath Postgame Show with Mark Bertinoli. Ladies and gentlemen, network producers are Jesse Trujillo, Alan Baca, Steve Nelson, Mark Springer, Jordan Berg, Dan Tanner, and Cole Smith. Network creative director is Marky Lindemulder. Network production director is Steve Cassidy. Traffic directors are Megan Rose and Tik Tantiwangumpai. Network sales manager is Dan Stores. Network director is Kevin Shockey. Chief network engineer is Jason Gorodetzer. Senior vice president of the Altitude Radio Network is Dave Fleck.
You want a hard-working team? There it is right there.
This broadcast was a presentation of the National Hockey League and the Altitude Radio Network.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Colorado Avalanche post-game coverage continues now. Let's go Between the Pipes with Alex Ryan-Amy and Mark Springer on Denver's official home for Avs hockey. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
MacKinnon has it. Not sure he knows how much time he has. MacKinnon holds up 2-1. Nichushkin leaves it for Taves. A shot, it won't matter. The Hawks get the 3-2 win. Nichushkin had 2 power play goals, but it doesn't matter because Chicago gets a power play goal of their own in the third period, and they have evened the season series at 1 apiece.
You heard the call right here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 with Connor McGahey. The Avs on the road at United Center in Chicago fall to the Blackhawks in regulation by a score of 3-2. They had a 2 power play goal first period outing. It was tied at 2 after 20 minutes, after 40 minutes, and then a power play goal from Chicago in the third is the difference. Colorado came on hot and heavy at the end, but a Ryan Johansson roughing minor after a scuffle in front of the net puts the Avs down a man with under a minute to go, and that was all she wrote. The Avs fall to 19-11-2. They're now 7-7-2 away from Ball Arena as we welcome you into Between the Pipes here on Altitude Sports Radio. I'm your host, Alex Ryan-Emy. You guys know me better as Raj, joined as always by super producer Steve Nelson behind the glass and my co-host.
I am having a very bad day.
Yeah, it's a bad time, Nelly. I get it. The radio machine, Mark Springer.
I mean, I would quote Stephen A. Smith again and say, stay off the weed. But maybe you need something tonight after that. Look, this game boils down to a couple things. Well, really just one thing to me. They didn't score 5-on-5. I mean, that's it. You don't score 5-on-5, especially against the Blackhawks, who didn't have Seth Jones tonight. That should help your offensive chances. He's a good defenseman. You can't score 4 on 5 or 5 on 5. All you get is 2 Valeri Nichushkin power play goals in the first period. Hey, great. Love that. Got to score 5 on 5. You have to. So if anyone wants to, you can say refs this, refs that tonight. They needed an even strength goal, okay? The Blackhawks got 2 even strength goals. The Avs have 0. I'm a firm believer that the game is won 5 on 5. Any special teams goals you get are cherries on top. They're special for a reason, okay? They're not the norm. You need to win 5 on 5, and they did not. They did not get a 5 on 5 goal tonight. They had their chances. I counted 4 of them, Raj, in the third period. Let's see, the one that stands out the most to me, Nichushkin lays this nice little backhand no-looker in the slot for Bowen Byram, who fans on it. I don't think it was a slick little pass from Nichushkin. So it could kind of catch you by surprise a little bit. But man, if Bo receives that, like, is right there for him. But he fanned on it. Yoel Kiviranta had a look on a wraparound from Curtis McDermott. Man, slow hands from Kiviranta. Like, that thing needs to be in the back of the net. Instead, he got Mrazek's pad. Devon Taves had a shot from the point that it was tipped. It was on net. It just didn't go in. And Mikko Rantanen had a look in the slot. He was wide open all alone, and he shot it wide. So 4 good chances there in the third period. They couldn't capitalize on any of them. And then, Raj, for me, when they have to pull Alexander Georgiev and go into the 6 on 5, and that's always more so a shot in the dark. You could say the game was already over, but with 30 seconds to go, for Jonathan Drouin to, on a frozen puck from Peter Mrazek, push, I think it was Connor Murphy. It's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then the ensuing shenanigans sees Ryan Johansson, for no reason, face wash Colin Blackwell. It's Johansson who ends up going to the box. It was all started by Drouin. It cost them the last 30 seconds. The game ended 30 seconds early because of a lack of discipline and frustrations, I suppose, boiling over.
It may not have made a difference in the final score of that game. You do hit it on the head. You have to score 5 on 5 against Chicago. If you don't score a 5 on 5 goal against that team, you deserve to lose the hockey game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not a bad loss. It's a bad loss. You lost to one of the worst teams in the league. Even if you don't have Cale Makar or Andrew Cogliano in the lineup, it's a bad loss. And you get 2 power play goals early. I thought the referees swallowed their whistles on Chicago after that first period pretty heavily. And while there were a ton of penalties called early on in the third, most of them going against the Avs, as soon as Chicago scored that power play goal, beautiful zone entry where Tyler Johnson's just waiting on the back post. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous goal. It just felt as though there was a lot of hooking, a lot of grabbing, couple interference calls that could have been made to give Colorado one more opportunity on the man advantage. 6 power play opportunities. Granted, one of them was the Johansson minor at the end of the game for Chicago, just 3 for Colorado. I thought the Avs just played with their food a little bit tonight, because after the first ends 2-2, and you were the better team in the first period, the second period has been a horror show for the Avs this year. They've been one of the worst teams in goal differential league-wide in the middle period. And you had to deal with being behind pace for the first 5 to 7 minutes, but I thought you picked it up, and I thought you were the better team for the second half of the second period, and I thought you carried play when it was 5 on 5 in the third. You just toyed with your food a little bit too much. And even if you play San Jose, Chicago, Ottawa, who you're going to see next, who's struggling, although they got a victory tonight in Arizona, head coach bump, they got a new one. You're going to find a way to lose games like that if you toy with your food.
They end up outshooting the Blackhawks. The Avalanche outshoot them 37-22. They were the better team tonight. No Cale Makar, I do think, hurt them. Chicago, to me, is a step up from San Jose. Certainly playing in Chicago as opposed to being at home against San Jose. I mean, hell, when the Avs went to San Jose earlier this season, it took them a shootout to beat the lowly Sharks. It's always tougher on the road. But the reason that Chicago is a step up from San Jose is one player. It's Connor Bedard.
He's a stud,
He's
man.
good, man. We saw Leo Carlsson a couple weeks ago, a couple times with the Ducks. Certainly the first matchup, the one in Anaheim, where the Ducks beat the Avs in overtime 4-3, and Leo Carlsson was great in that game. Bedard's better. Bedard is going to be so good.
He already is
in this league.
The best play that he had tonight was a little relocate drag on a one-on-one, I believe is with Devon Taves defending it, and he missed the net over Georgiev's blocker side. And that thing, his ability to relocate a puck and snap something off at like 85 miles an hour is, there's maybe one or two other players in the league that can do it like he can. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like Austin Matthews and David Pastrnak.
He was critical to both even strength Blackhawks goals, both in the first period. He assisted on both of them. The second one, the pass to Lucas Reichel, and Reichel's a young kid too,
Great pass.
who I don't think he's had a point in his last 8 games, but he's not Connor Bedard. Young kid's going to struggle, but you get a good feed like that from Bedard after a turnover, and that's a lace. That's a lace from Lucas Reichel. I don't blame Georgiev for any of the 3 goals scored tonight. You got to score an even strength goal to back him up. But yeah, Connor Bedard, man, he was instrumental tonight. He was really good. And this kid's 18, and you see how slender he is when he grows into his big boy body. Oh my gosh, look out! This Blackhawks team is they're going to be good.
You think Georgiev was good enough to win?
I do. You got to get an even strength goal for the guy.
I thought he struggled for the first 10 minutes of the game seeing the puck. I think that's evidenced in the fact that there was a goal that hits the post, goes behind him. It was a weird bounce, honestly. You can't really blame him for it, but wasn't seeing the puck well early. There was another one that was cleared off the goal line by Byram in the first 5 minutes, so I thought he struggled early. The middle period, though, sensational. Made like 6 grade A stops that kept this thing tied at 2 for the Avs there. I thought he was good enough to win the game. It does come down to score a 5-on-5 goal against one of the worst teams in the league.
Mm-hmm. Was it the first goal, the Donato goal, where Bowen Byram turns the puck over in the D zone? He gets stripped, I believe, by Bedard. I think that was the first goal. The second goal, the Reichel goal, was just a really nice passing 200 feet really up the boards, and Donato feeds Bedard into the zone.
It was Bedard. It was a little one-on-one move that you don't want to see. You don't want to see a defenseman making in that spot.
Yeah, Bedard completely owns Bowen Byram on this play. Now, it's not a good decision by Bo. I wouldn't skate into that area, whether it's Connor Bedard or anybody else. Keep that puck wide. Also, his head's down a little bit. Didn't even really see Bedard coming there. A little too aggressive for Bo to think he could skate in that area in that moment, and then Bedard just strips him.
It was odd that he was trying to go back to the strong side of the ice, too.
Yeah.
Right? Because there were, if you look at the, I'm going to use it, it's funny, the all-22, if you look at the overhead, all of the open ice was to the bench side, and that's where the puck was taking Byram. It was odd that he tried to go back to his backhand side on a move that was removing his stick from the puck. It may have happened quicker than he anticipated, but put the puck into a soft area. Just put it into a soft area. Early on in the game, get it out there, especially when you see, if you have enough time, and it may have happened very quickly. If you have enough time to look up and see Bedard coming down on you, that's the only guy they got. Like, that's the threat. So keep the puck away from the threat.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like Kucherov and then Braden Point's behind him and then Victor Hedman's behind him with Stamkos on the far side. That's the only threat. Keep the puck away from him.
Mm-hmm. So without Cale tonight, I noticed a lack of puck moving from the defense, a lack of dangerous play, pushing defensively to offensively from the defenseman. Devon Taves was okay. You know what you're going to get from him pretty much night in, night out, but he wasn't overly dangerous. Bo's that next guy that could step in. It really wasn't quite there tonight. Nobody was as dangerous as Kale would have been moving the puck. And it also makes me think, man, this is a game where they miss a Sam Girard. I think Sam Girard would have moved the puck better tonight than any defenseman for the Avs did. In fact, the best defensive play from an offensive perspective, you know what it was when I talked about that Mikko Rantanen shot where he got it wide open in the slot? You know who sets that up? Sam Malinsky, skating behind the net as a defenseman in the O-zone deep down there, looking a little bit like Cale Makar. It was the only dangerous play from a defenseman offensively tonight was one little play by Sam Malinsky. So no Cale Makar, and the offensive contributions from the defense, they were just nowhere to be found tonight.
Avs fall 3-2 to Chicago on the road. Their 11th regulation loss this season. They're still tied atop the Central Division. However, Dallas and Winnipeg both have games in hand on Colorado. 40 points on the year for the Avs, 40 points on the year for Dallas. Dallas has 2 games in hand. Winnipeg has 2 games in hand and trail by just 1 point. We'll take a quick timeout here. On the other side, we'll hear from head coach Jared Bednar. Keep breaking down this loss to the Blackhawks. It's Between the Pipes on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
McKinnon, one-timer, he missed the net. Rantanen has it back near side hash marks. 20 seconds to go in the power play. Rantanen in front for Nichushkin. Save made Mrazek. Rebound, Nichushkin did it again. It's the 2-2 times 2. Valeri Nichushkin now has 2 power play goals in 2 minutes. He has 9 on the season, and Colorado has a 2-1 lead with 8:35 to go in the first. Nichushkin did the yeoman's work to get the puck back. Rantanen laid it out in front. Nichushkin had it saved at first. Mrazek made the stop, but had the puck slid underneath him between the legs by Valeri Nichushkin. And so the choo-choo train has 15 goals on the season. 9 of them have come on the power play.
2 power play goals from Val Nichushkin in the first 20 minutes were the only ones that the Avs would score in a 3-2 loss at the Chicago Blackhawks. Next time they'll play will be home against the Ottawa Senators, who I mistakenly said got a win this evening in the desert. They were up 3-0 in that game. The Yotes came back and scored 3 goals in the third period, 4 unanswered overall to take that one in regulation. So the new coach bump did not work for Ottawa. Before we get back into this one, let's head back out to United Center and hear from head coach Jared Bednar.
Well, Coach, I asked Jack Johnson if he thought this was a case of you guys underestimating your opponent. He said he didn't think so. What would you say the breakdown was for you guys here tonight with Chicago?
Yeah, I didn't think so either, because I thought, especially first period, I liked our game a lot. We were in attack mode, creating some really good chances. Obviously got a couple power plays out of that from our hard work and capitalize on those. Again, it's starting to become a broken record, but I thought we shot ourselves in the foot a couple times tonight. If you look at turnover to the first goal against, routine coverage on a controlled breakout, they get the second goal, and the second period was probably my least favorite, and that was mostly turnovers by us that led to their scoring chances against. And Gorgie had a great period. But the reality of it is, we didn't score a 5-on-5 goal tonight. We had some good chances, didn't capitalize, and then I still think we could have made it a lot harder on them defensively, and part of that was our mismanagement of the puck, just forcing things a little bit and turning pucks over in the wrong area that, when we have a chance to sustain our ozone cycle and wear them down a little bit, we didn't down a little bit, do it.
We're hearing guys all say they understand what they need to do better to improve, but when you're not seeing it executed, what do you as a coach do?
Well, we got to stick with it and keep breaking it down and keep helping them try to understand it. I think their hearts are in the right place. Typical tonight, we had a couple of good sustained shifts, and we're doing things right, shooting the puck a little bit like meat and potatoes, and then we get it back for a third or fourth time and try something fancy and turn it over, and it's odd man rush going the other way. So it's a mindset that we have to adapt as a team, a maturity of our team, and a real good understanding that we don't have to force things, that we're a good enough team to, if we play the right way, to create enough goals to win hockey games, and we're probably giving up less when we do that. So we'll keep driving it into these guys, and they'll get it. Where some nights we're better than others, there's no question, still a work in progress, but we're gonna have to be better, a lot better than we have been recently in some of those areas.
Coach, you think it's all a lack of cohesion? Maybe still not everybody pulling the rope quite the same direction?
I think we're too far into the season to say that. I don't think that's the case. We are missing some key guys that play important minutes for us, which doesn't help, but every team is at this point, you know what I mean? So it's not an excuse either. We got 20 capable guys playing tonight, and again, I just think it's more of a mindset and a discipline to our game that we're lacking a little bit on certain nights.
Is that at all concerning for you long term?
Well, every time you don't play well enough to win, it's concerning, but it's not. It's been going on for long enough, so we got to fix it. There's no excuses.
2 penalties for Miles plus that misconduct. Do you say anything to him? Clearly he was frustrated.
Well, he already came in and talked to us after the game. I mean, he understands that he messed up there. I think frustration because we're, unable to capitalize. He didn't like his penalty. I didn't love his penalty either, the one they called on him. And he just got undisciplined and lost his cool. And even the one at the end of the game, I don't think we needed to go in there. I think there was lots going on in that scrum before Joe gets called. But we're trying to tie a hockey game. We just had 2 or 3 shots on net with the 6-on-5 and plenty of time to keep that going and give ourselves a chance. And we just got undisciplined. And that part of it is unacceptable. When the game's on the line, you still got a minute to play. There's no need to be taking penalties. And the wood one hurt us too. So we kind of, again, it just goes back to shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit.
Thanks, Coach.
That's the head coach of the Avalanche, Jared Bednar, addressing the media at United Center. 3-2 final in regulation from Chicago. The Avs fall. A lot of penalties against in the third period. Again, Miles Wood takes a penalty and a 10-minute misconduct after, hurting a referee's feelings, apparently. Maybe that led to the Avs being down a man after that 5-on-5, rather 6-on-5 penalty against that Drouin started and Johansson finished. It just seemed as though maybe you were on the bad side of the referees tonight. Again, the overarching theme, you hit it on the head in our opening segment. The Avs don't score 5-on-5. Even with all of the shooting oneself in the foot, you could have won this game in regulation had you just scored a 5-on-5 goal.
And do you remember Jokic, when he got ejected for yapping at the refs on Serbian Heritage Night? Do you remember who they were playing?
Were they playing
Chicago.
the Bulls?
They were playing the Chicago Bulls.
The city of Chicago, huh?
What's in the Lou Malnati's, man? What's in the deep
sports
dish?
And entertainment hatred, man.
The refs are drinking something in the water out there in Chicago, man. What's going on?
If you're from Denver, you don't say any dirty words to the refs in Chicago. Brett on the text line said Connor Murphy cross-checked Drouin in the back before the stoppage in play. Brett adds, Drouin retaliated in return, still unnecessary. And that's the part I agree with. I don't care. You have 30 seconds left in the game. If Connor Murphy cross-checks you, and I didn't see that, I'm going to assume, Brett, you're right.
It was one of your run-of-the-mill guys
in front of the net.
And it's the one that I yell about. Like, if you're going to tamp down on cross-checking in the league,
sure,
tamp down on that one because it's rampant.
Yeah.
And it was that type of cross-check. Just lower back, dump the guy in front of the net because you're not going to get called for it.
Look, if you're Drouin, you have to eat it. You have to.
You do.
You gotta. You cannot go on the kill in that moment. And if the refs don't call that cross-check, they don't call it. And Raj, I'm with you. They should call it more in that spot, especially with some of the ticky-tack cross-checks you see called ever since this has been a point of emphasis over the past couple seasons, yet they don't seem to call those. That's kind of why I've been a proponent of the Avs utilizing that more from their defensemen in front of net, whether it's Makar, Taves, some of the lighter Avalanche defensemen. Utilize that cross-check. They'll clearly let you get away with it.
No one calls it, man. The only time it's ever called is like Eric Johnson got called for it last year, and it was behind the net, and they still allow that cross-check to happen once or twice, but EJ tripled down on that. I can't remember who it was against. It may have been St. Louis.
I remember this. I do. I know what you're talking about.
Tripled down on cross-checking a dude, and then finally you see a hand pop up as a cross-check or a rough. All right, we gave you enough. They're not going to call the one in front of the net.
No, I think I remember that EJ one you're referencing, though. Didn't EJ lay him bam, bam?
Oh, it was 3 in a row.
Bam.
Yeah.
That one is
didn't stop.
Okay, EJ, hey, buddy.
Cool it.
And then, Ryan Johansson, he has the final face wash of Colin Blackwell, which I don't like either. I think that's the one the refs ultimately said, enough's enough, you're going on the kill here. Obviously, I don't like that from Johansson either. But in Ryan Johansson's defense, the reason he's out there in the 6-on-5 late is to win faceoffs. And that's exactly what he did. He won at least a couple faceoffs there in the final minute or two. And they were getting shots on goal. They were keeping the puck in the offensive zone, like there is absolutely a world where if the Avs don't lose their composure with 30 seconds to go, they remain in the 6-on-5 and they score and they tie it and they get a point at least and they go to overtime. I don't like that they punted on the last 30 seconds. I don't like that at all.
Neither do I. I found the Eric Johnson call. It was last year against the Bruins in Taylor Hall, and the referee actually, when he was calling the penalty, called Eric Johnson 2 minutes for 3 cross checks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is exactly. Dude,
I remember watching it.
He just buries him 3 times behind the net.
Yeah.
One.
That's where you know what you're doing.
It's so funny.
You're like, if you're Eric Johnson, you're surprised if you don't go to the box.
It's so funny, man. He just bullies him.
Avs are missing a little bit of that.
They are. They're not missing a guy who's going to slow the game down. They are missing a little bit of like screw you on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be able to trade for it. Like Chris Tanev is available at the deadline from Calgary, and while he doesn't bring as much as his brother does in Seattle, he's a guy who I'd like to have. Maybe you can get him.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Chris Tanev? Which one?
You think of the dude with Seattle?
No, there's two. There's two.
Brandon
brothers.
Tanev is with Seattle. I don't know where Chris Tanev is right now.
Chris Tanev is a defenseman right now. He's a middle pairing defenseman for Calgary.
Okay.
I always forget which one is which, but Chris is with Calgary, C to C, and Brandon is in Seattle, and he's the one who takes the weird, like, staring at the camera mug shots.
Yes. I think forward is what they need. Did you see, was it Colorado Hockey Now? Was it Evan Rawal who he tweeted something about like, hey, they traded Tomas Tatar. People around the league are talking. And we talked a little bit about this at the end of our show, the last game. Is this a sign that a bigger move is coming, dumping some of that salary? And the name that he threw out there in his tweet was Elias Lindholm, a name you've also brought up on this show, Raj, the center, the captain, I believe, for the Calgary Flames. I think they need a forward. I don't know if it would be Lindholm. The Flames are actually kind of in it. Nice win over the Panthers last night, which was a pick that I got wrong. I had Florida winning. So I don't know if Lindholm will be available, but that would be a big name. That would be the type of name. And I think it's forward. I think that what they need is forward. Would I love more physicality defensively? Sure. But when I look at the area of need for this team, it's a second line forward. I know that's easier said than done to acquire, but I think that's what they need.
Yeah, the guys in the middle of the ice around the deadline. And this team right now, without being fully healthy, it's a playoff team. It's a team that can win a round. It's a team that can probably win 2 rounds. They're missing something. And I do believe it's a guy like Lindholm. It's a guy like, you probably can't fit him because he's got term left on his contract. Like, could you grab a Nick Schmaltz from Arizona? Could you grab an older Jason Zucker? But I don't think Zucker brings the same type of impact to a lineup that he did when he went over to Pittsburgh for a couple of years. There's not a lot of center depth at the deadline right now. There's far more defensemen that are available. Like, you can go out and get Brett Pesce, Noah Hannafin, guys like that. Like maybe John Gibson's available. Do you look at that?
I don't even think it has to be center because first of all, those are so hard to find. And second of all, I think when Artturi Lehkonen is back, and let's say Landeskog is not back, which honestly, I would say that's probably the likely outcome. I'd say it could be very close to a coin flip, but I think it's over 50%. This could even be 51-49, whatever. I think the likely scenario is Gabe Landeskog is not back for the playoffs. Let's just run with that, okay? Even though he very well could. He very well could be, okay?
That's the prudent thought process.
Yeah. It's also prudent, I think, is another way to describe this thought process. So you got Lehkonen. You got whoever they could trade for. I'm saying it could be a wing. I think Ross Colton can be 2C. I really do. I think playing with Wood and Drouin is not the same as playing with Lehkonen and mystery player you trade for. I think Colton could thrive in that scenario. I really like Ross Colton. So I don't think you need it to be a center.
That is sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate that at all. That's a good thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And he does fit better right now than Johansson does. Johansson looks like he fits his 3C.
Yes, he does.
And guess what he's able to do? Before you take the penalty at the end of the game, and I'm really not putting it on Johansson.
There were several. I mean, it was Drouin, it was Wood, it was several.
The penalty at the end of the game, even though Johansson gets the face wash, that's the reason why that happens is because Jonathan Drouin goes back and essentially punches Connor Murphy in the face.
Yep.
Because he got dumped in front of the net.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting that on Johansson. He's going in there to stir things up and protect his little guy. That's what's happening there. I like him as a third center, and he's worth it at $4 million. And look what he does at the end of the game. He goes out there for 3 offensive zone draws, wins all 3 of them.
This is huge.
And gives you opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get any grade A's out of it, but you got grade B pluses, you got flurries.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can ask for him.
And then, the other area, Roberto on the text line, and I'm surprised it took us this long into the show to get this one. He started off by saying, Georgiev is a bum. Then he said they're missing component. Wrong there, Roberto. Is a goalie.
No, that ain't it.
I don't think it is, man. And here we've talked about this. I thought about this a lot tonight with Georgiev because again, I don't put any of the 3 goals on him. I know he's struggled a little bit of late, and the alarming thing was, he allows the Blake Coleman goal against Calgary. Then he gets benched the next game against Buffalo. Fine, okay. Then he gets benched the next game in Winnipeg, and that is kind of like, whoa, a little bit of a red flag here. That being said, look. There's no Patrick Waugh in this league. We talked about this ad nauseum on this show, okay? There's no Marty Brodeur. The best goalie in this league is Andrei Vasilevsky. After that, maybe you go Shesterkin. It's a whole lot of B pluses.
Yeah, Shesterkin hasn't gotten back to his Vezina level of 2 years ago.
No.
So you could, even Vasilevsky at this point in his career, I could look at him and the next 5 best goalies in the league and go, yeah, pick your poison.
Sure, exactly.
Or maybe even the 3 Russians at the top of the league. If you give me Vasilevsky, Sorokin, and Shesterkin, I throw a blind dart at a board, and whichever one comes up, I go, yeah, he's the best in the league.
I think it's Vasilevsky, and then I've seen Shesterkin get lit up. I've seen Sorokin get lit up. You're just looking for a guy that gets you to a certain level, and Georgiev is that type of goaltender. There is no magic solution. There's nobody you're trading for who is better than Alexander Georgiev.
If you wanted him and you could make the money work, you could go get John Gibson.
Can't tell me he's better than Georgiev.
Oh,
though.
yeah, I can.
No, not
John Gibson's a better goalie.
No, I disagree. John Gibson has...
And I like Georgiev. John Gibson is a better goalie than Alexander Georgiev.
I disagree. John Gibson has not been that good the past couple seasons.
He's been playing in front of a brutal team.
He's $1 million or $2 more expensive.
He's $3 million more expensive.
For a guy who might be better than Georgiev, I don't think you can say with any certainty.
Dude, his career, .283, .912 save percentage.
Dude,
he's 30 years old. He's
me,
slightly bigger than Georgie is.
You know that I can't help myself, and I bet the Ducks the past couple seasons, and there's some John Gibson games where I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I don't think, okay, a guy I was looking at tonight was UC Saros of Nashville, who lost at home to Vancouver. But I was looking at Saros' game log coming into tonight's game. He had won 7 out of his last 8 starts, was playing really well.
I would jump at a guy like UC Saros.
He's available. He might be, actually. I don't know if he is. He might be. I've seen people tweet the Leafs or the Oilers need to be all over UC Saros.
I would take a peek at him. I'm trying to find his cap hit right now. And they do have the goaltender in waiting. They've got Yaroslav Askarov, who's supposed to be the next great Russian netminder. Remember, he was a top 10 overall pick, I believe, 2 years ago. Saros is $5 million this year and next year.
So you can
get that.
He's gonna be pricey though, since you have a year beyond this. It's not just a rental; it's a year and a half if you get him. And honestly, the point I was going to make was when I compare Saros to Georgiev, I think it's pretty similar, actually. Saros
is better.
He's been the starter for Nashville a touch longer than Georgiev has been the starter for Colorado. So he's got a little bit of a larger sample size to him. He's been a little bit more consistent, but they're both like smaller goaltenders. I think
UC is smaller than Georgiev is. He's 5'11", 180.
Georgiev has an inch or two on him, but they both play a little smaller. Like Georgiev does play a little smaller in net, but I don't think the leap is that much.
See, I do. I look at Saros and I go, he can steal you a game.
He absolutely can. I think Georgiev can too. I'm telling you, as good as Saros has been coming into tonight, what did he had a stinker tonight. All of these guys will have stinkers. All of them across the board.
I'm not saying I don't think the Avs can win with Georgiev. I do. I think he's good enough. I think they need to add more pieces around him. They need to clean up shooting themselves in the foot, as Bednar said it tonight. They need to play a little bit more consistent, and then you'll see the Georgiev at the beginning of the season and of last year start to come back up. Like, Georgie was very good in the playoffs last year. He gave you a chance in a series that it was very clear you were steps slow and you were injured and you had key guys suspended or just away from the team. But I haven't seen the Georgie that goes out there and can steal you a game. I look at John Gibson, I look at UC Saros, and I go, they can still steal you games right now. Maybe Georgie can, right?
I think he absolutely can.
Very early. Maybe he's just going through, like the Avs have been going through, the roller coaster ride, the ups and downs of the early part of the season. I just haven't seen him be the game stealer Georgiev that we saw last year.
He has not had a performance like that this season, but I do think he's been fine, save for the dip he's had. And not even, I thought a couple games ago against San Jose, I thought he was good. Now, I know it's San Jose. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked good again tonight. Again, I don't put any of the 3 goals on him. And this team, it's not built to spend money on goalie. It is spending money on McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. You're just not, they couldn't even afford Darcy Kemper. You know, it's just the way this roster is constructed. This team is built to score 5-on-5 goals and win with offense, and they did not score a 5-on-5 goal tonight.
No, they didn't. I brought it up on Dempsey and Company today. The Avs are top 5 in the league scoring 5-on-5 when they have a lead. Unfortunately, they get scored on first a lot this year, and they need to clean that thing up. We'll take one more time out, come back on the other side, get you guys some NHL scores and some picks for tomorrow. I'm hot. Spring needs to get back on it and back off the schneid. We'll see if you can do so next on Altitude.
Miles Wood, far side half wall, keeps it himself. Again, telegraphed with Drouin, and it's a 2-on-0 the other way. Connor Bedard in, save made by Georgiev! Bedard, a centering pass, broken up by Malinsky. Avs have numbers the other way. It's a 4-on-2. Drouin, he'll leave it. Olofsson a shot, save made by Mrazek below the goal line. Boy, that save by Georgiev is monstrous on Connor Bedard.
Few grade A opportunities saved by Alexander Georgiev in the second to keep that score tied 2-2. First 7 or 8 minutes of that middle frame were pretty touch and go there, but Colorado, a better team in the first. They were the better team the second half of the second, but you fail to score a 5-on-5 goal against a team that's going to be in the running to get Macklin Celebrini this year. You deserve to lose a hockey game.
Good save by Alexander Georgiev right there. Bedard got a little mini breakaway, and he tried to go to that glove side. Georgiev shut him down. Save you can make, save he made. I thought he was fine tonight. And the Avs, of course, didn't have Cale Makar tonight. Whenever I think of the Avs in Chicago nowadays, I think of that overtime game-winning goal that Cale Makar had. We are approaching the 2-year anniversary of it, January 4th.
The Kirby Dach goal.
2022, yes, where he put Dach in the spin cycle. Stick handle, puck handle, backhand, top shelf, beats Mark
Spins!
Andre Fleury. And, hey, as I watched that highlight here, I got the highlight up here for me to watch. There's Gabe Landeskog on the ice for that goal. Those were simpler times. Look, you go to Chicago, these games are actually, they've been historically tight. It's when the
Spins!
It's when the Blackhawks come to Ball Arena that the Avs usually have their way with them. But you go to Chicago, you need a Cale Makar. You need that juice that he provided almost 2 years ago with one of the best overtime game-winning goals you will ever see.
The post-game comments from Cale's defensive partner, Devon Taves, were damning. Jesse Montano of Guerrilla Sports got the audio, and he goes on to say, do you have it, Nelly? Yeah, let's hear it, if you have it.
I mean, it's self-awareness. We need guys that know how to play in our system, how to play our game, and know what it takes. And if we have guys in here, I think we got some guys that think they're playing well, and I think they're kidding themselves at this point. It's frustrating to play with, play out there when you got guys that think they're playing well and they're doing things that you have no idea what play they're going to make or where they're going to be on the ice. And it's tough to play in this league when you don't know where your teammates are going to be. So, that's where a lot of the frustration stems from.
That is as damning as I've heard Devon Taves talk in his time here in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the first public call out from a player that I've heard from an Avalanche player of his own teammates in a long time. And it's got to carry a lot of weight coming from somebody like Devon Taves, who is as good of a character leader guy on this team. I mean, what he's saying is there are guys not playing within the system that they want to play. Now, you can say that publicly. That's fine. This needs to be said, starting with Jared Bednar addressing the entire team, right? You can say it publicly all you want, and that's going to carry a lot of weight. I mean, that means that there's true frustration, but this needs to be addressed to the entire team. You can't just passive-aggressively throw something like that out to the media and then not address it as a team together.
I'm sure they're addressing it as a team. When you lose 5 out of 6, I'm sure guys are being called out in the room by coaches and called out in video sessions, and guys know who's struggling. I would assume he's got a few guys in mind. He's not going to call them out by name in front of the media, but yeah, there's a few things that you see with the flow of the game. You can't have guys taking penalties late in a tied game where you have a Chicago team that's looking to give you their best shot of the day, right? 2-2, Chicago's not going to win a whole lot of hockey games this year, but you got the Avs on the ropes. You're going to take a penalty. Same thing with Johansson, Drouin at the end of the game. You think you're playing well? Johansson, double-digit goals. Drouin's got assists in 4 of his last 7 games, and he's looked better. But Devon goes on to say, like, you think you're playing well? Take a look, right? You need to have better self-awareness, and that's the leadership that I think that people have been asking for, and it is the self-awareness from the team saying, hey, we know we're within first, second, and third. Like, we're not going to fall out of playoff contention. That's a senile thought process. But we know we've got a lot more to give. And the guys who have been in this room and have won cups know how to do this. Either get on board or don't.
I don't know if it was entirely or even mostly about the lack of discipline with 30 seconds to go, but those were all 3 new additions to the team in Drouin, Johansson, and Wood. What was Wood's deal on that play? Because he wasn't even on the ice. Was this all from the bench? Was he just chirping, saying something?
Yeah,
was it
Wood
words?
got upset after he got called for the penalty that led to the Johnson goal. And then he hurt a referee's feelings.
Oh, okay.
So he got a 10-minute misconduct, not able to play for the remainder of the game.
Okay.
And probably, again, if you're on, this happens because referees are humans. And I've told you they're soft as Charmin. You scream at a referee enough, they might swallow whistles. And what happened today at the end of the third period? The referees swallowed their whistles. There was clutching, grabbing, hooking, interference, hits from behind. And the Avs were down 2 power plays at that point. And they were the team that was carrying the pace. All of that says they should earn a call. And they didn't. And it may have been because of one of those things.
I mean, I understand the frustration, but all 3 of those dudes, all 3 new dudes to this team, put their team in a position where they punted on the final 30 seconds of the game. And it stands out so much to me because you never saw that from this team over the past several years. You would never see guys lose their cool and cost your team your final last gasps. So perhaps that's what Taves is talking about.
Possibly. Let's go through the NHL scoreboard here. Spring, a bunch of games. As I said, the Yotes scored 4 unanswered to beat the Senators at home. Michael Kesselring had a goal for Ottawa, the final one that they scored in the first period, and then that was it. Karel Vejmelka, 16 saves on 16 opportunities, coming in relief today, and finds a way to get a victory. The Canucks get a 5-2 win over the Predators. Casey DeSmith, 26 saves in that game, and then Ilya Sorokin, 30 on 31 as the Islanders beat Edmonton.
Oh, it was Casey DeSmith in net for Vancouver. He's started a couple in a row now, so I wonder what's going on with Thatcher Demko. Either way, yeah, Vancouver, man, they're solid. They're a real solid team, and that's a nice win in Nashville right there.
Hurricanes double up the Golden Knights, 6-3. Peter Kochetkov, 30 saves on 33 opportunities in that game. Hurricanes got out to a huge lead. They were up 6-1 at one point. Golden Knights got a couple of throwaway goals at the end there in the third period. The Flyers get their 18th win on the season. Owen Tippett, an absolute laser beam in overtime to win this one for John Tortorella's team. They beat the Devils on the road, 18-10-3 for Philly. And the Lightning, they chased Jordan Binnington from the net early on in this one. 6-1 win at home over the Blues.
Yeah, and it's something to keep an eye on with the Golden Knights. Logan Thompson in net for them. And that's only because Aiden Hill had to leave their last game very early with injury. And I think Logan Thompson is also banged up. Like, I was hearing that in that win over Ottawa, like every save he made, he was like in pain.
Like grimacing.
Yeah, grimacing every time, but he's forced to start tonight with Aiden Hill still out, and he gets lit, and then he ended up leaving this game. He got pulled. So goaltending health right now for the Vegas Golden Knights is something to keep an eye on.
The Blue Jackets, 9 goals on the road against the Sabres. The Blue Jackets 9-4 winners. They get a hat trick from Kirill Marchenko. Johnny Gaudreau adds a 3-point night. Sabres 13-17-3. A once young, promising team. They've forgotten how to score, and they've now learned how to give up a whole bunch of goals as well.
They score 4 tonight. They got the offensive talent on paper. You got to play some defense. You have the goaltending, got to play some defense. Allowing 9 goals at home to Columbus is a bad look.
Rangers 5-2 victory with 3 goals coming in the third period this evening. Austin Matthews had 2 of his own, the only 2 for Toronto tonight. Blake Wheeler adds 2 assists. Rangers now 22-7-1. The Wild get a 4-3 overtime winner from Kirill Kaprizov and 40 saves from Marc-Andre Fleury, who did not play in Pittsburgh 2 nights ago, which may have been his final game to play in Pittsburgh. People were pissed off about that, but bounces back, beats the Bruins on a 40-save opportunity.
Yeah, I know people were upset about that, and I did think it was a little odd, but can't question John Hines' decision now. It ended up working out, and, they had a back-to-back in Pittsburgh last night, in Boston tonight. I get the idea of playing Fleury against his old team, but Pittsburgh, 1, it's the front end with your fresher legs. 2, it's the weaker of the 2 teams. Gustafson's their 1. They went and tried to get the 2 points last night. It didn't work, but sometimes things are funky, and they end up getting 2 tonight with Fleury on the second night of a back-to-back.
Kings hold a 3-0 lead on the road at the San Jose Sharks right now. Tomorrow, just 3 games to be played. Islanders at the Caps, Wings at the Jets, and Kraken at the Kings. Anything you like?
No. I'll be blunt, but
I actually don't like I might not give any picks out. I don't like the lines.
Yeah, I don't like any of these games. What catches my eye is Washington is hosting the Islanders, and the Islanders played tonight, beating Connor McDavid and the Oilers. Now they get on a plane in a short trip down to Washington, D.C., So you'd think Washington getting the Islanders on the second night of a back-to-back, it'll probably be Semyon Varlamov in net against one of his former teams, maybe a more tired Islanders team. So I suppose let's go with the Capitals on the money line, which is about -125. I'll do that.
There's your pick there for Mark Springer. Next time you guys will hear our voices will be after the Avs take on the Ottawa Senators in just 2 days' time. For Steve Nelson, for Mark Springer, my name's Alex Ryan-Emmy. Tune in tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. For Brett Kane, they'll have Coach Jared Bednar at 8 a.m. as well. Avs lose 3-2. We'll talk to you on Thursday.